各位下午好，我是联合国教科文组织总部的徐波。文化可持续发展的关键国际会议高级商务论坛现在作为杭州国际大会的核心项目之一，我们今天非常高兴邀请到了欧盟在中国的企业家、中国的企业家、中国与教科文组织与合作的民营企业和中国地方政府与教科文合作的这个代表，以及中国的一些文化机构、基金会、艺术家的出席。我们有100多位来自各方面的，请我们以热烈掌声对大家的到来表示欢迎。我们尤其非常高兴的是，我们邀请到了大家在座非常熟悉的中国杰出的外交家、前联合国副秘书长、联合国可持续发展大会秘书长沙楚康先生，请大家报以热烈掌声表示欢迎和感谢。现在我们有请联合国教科文组织战略事务助理总干事汉斯·道维勒给大家做开幕词、欢迎词，然后由道维勒先生来做这个论坛的主持人。有请汉斯·道维勒。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are right in the middle of the Congress, and too often in the world and too often on the international circuit have we spoken about the culture of business. What is a business culture? How do businesses behave? But now we have a chance to speak and to turn it around about the business of culture. And we have heard this morning in a fantastic intervention also from Mr. Chang Lin from the Rwanda Group, what the amounts are which are at stake in the business culture, business, so to speak. And we have also heard from Indonesia and other countries that more than 10% of GDP are due to culture. These are enormous amounts. And of course, if one sees how the culture budgets and the culture revenues grow, we know already that the annual growth is about more than 14%, which is of course much higher than the phenomenal growth of the Chinese economy. So you see you're dealing with the most dynamic element of the national and of the global economy. So we have a very important opportunity today, and also a very rare opportunity, to focus on all these issues, how they relate to culture. Culture is not only what we were jokingly yesterday saying, something warm and something for the heart, it is also something for the pocket. And as you are there, we have to explore how does it move from the heart to the pocket and from the pocket to the heart. So if I can say it in such bland terms, this is just to set the stage. We have a very exciting discussion, we have very exciting keynoters and panelists today. And we will also have the opportunity that the Director General of UNESCO, Madame Bokova, will come towards the end to conclude this session here with her own perspective of the business side of culture. Let me begin by inviting, first of all, Ambassador Shah to come to the podium. I don't think in China Ambassador Shah needs any introduction, and Chibo has done that, and I couldn't understand what he said, but let me add from my own point of view, not only has he been a very respected Under-Secretary General at the United Nations for Economic and Social Affairs, he also was the Secretary General of the historic Rio+20 conference held last June in Rio de Janeiro. Now, that is not all why he's here. He also had the good spirits and the courage, I would say, to bring international business to the conference, and had sessions together with governments and international business, which was nothing short of a revolution for the United Nations. Usually you talk to business companies on the side, maybe better after 6 o'clock or before 10 o'clock, but here was a major international conference which integrated the business dimension fully in the deliberations of the conference, and I think for this he deserves a big hand again. Let me invite then also David Khalili, Professor David Khalili, who is, I should say, just a goodwill ambassador of UNESCO, but that of course will not be good enough. He is also a smart businessman in his own right, because he also has accumulated over his lifetime some of the biggest collections of artwork, including Chinese art, which you see possibly somewhere around the world, from London to Qatar to New York to Boston, exhibited. And he sees the both sides, of course the business side, and he sees also the artistic side. And he is very well versed in those areas. David, please come to the podium. Then I would like to invite Mr. Chang Lin, I've just mentioned him already, the Executive President of the Dalian Banda Culture Industry Group. Please come up to the podium also here. Mr. Chang is running this possibly, I can't say most dynamic, because otherwise I pass a judgment on the property group of the Wanda Group, which I cannot do, but this certainly very young and dynamic group of the cultural industry. And we are very happy that he has taken time to come here today. He spoke in the morning, and he will elaborate a little bit more now on the business forum dimension of what we can capture here for this important congress. Always, of course, bearing in mind that culture has a function. Culture has the function of being the key for sustainable development. We have heard other areas today, this morning, where development and culture again are being inversed, whether it's culture key for sustainable development or development only working if cultures adapt. I think this is a very dynamic process which we all have to reflect together. So, without further ado, we will have possibly other guests coming in the course of the afternoon, because as you know there are other parallel sessions going on. Let me first invite now Ambassador Shah to take the floor for his introductory keynote address. Thank you.
My friend, colleagues, friends, it is a great pleasure to join you at the Business Forum at the International Conference, Culture Key to Sustainable Development. I want to commend UNESCO on its initiative to convene this conference, which is focusing on the theme that is gaining global attention. Indeed, the General Assembly of the United Nations is hosting a thematic debate next month on the subject. The Economic and Social Council will address the potential of culture for promoting sustainable development during its annual ministerial review in July this year. And here in China, advancing cultural development is a new key national priority. Let me also say that there is no better venue than Hangzhou for hosting this international conference. Hangzhou is a city of historical significance with a rich cultural heritage. I want to congratulate UNESCO, the European Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai, the Ruby Group of Shenzhen, and other business partners of UNESCO for co-organizing this business forum. This forum is sending a strong message to the world. Culture is a key to sustainable development, and the business community recognizes and embraces the critical contribution of culture to sustainable development. The Business Forum is also providing a much-needed platform for timely dialogue among members of the Chinese, European, and international business community about the role of cultural and creative industry in the implementation of sustainable development. I hope you will use this opportunity to explore avenues for cooperation and launch new partnerships for advancing culture for sustainable development. At the end of the day, the fruits of dialogue are seen in the action that follows the dialogue. Dear colleagues, many experts and practitioners in sustainable development have underscored the role of culture as both a driver and enabler of sustainable development. I share that assessment. During my term as Under Secretary General for the Command for Social Affairs of the United Nations, I was guiding policy analysis and norm setting with a broad range of social economic areas, which include social development, good governance, financing for development, population development, monitoring of progress in Millennium Development Goals, international development cooperation, as well as public and private partnership. I realized that for real progress to take place in all these areas, we need to understand culture. We need to understand mindsets, values, norms, attitudes, social dynamics, and we need to understand what drives behavioral change. Simply put, without this understanding, it will be difficult to advance an agenda for change. When I became the Secretary General of the United Nations on Sustainable Development, more commonly known as Rio +20, I had an intensive 2-year engagement in the preparation for the largest UN conference in development, to which, by the way, UNESCO made critical contributions. As a result of that experience, I've come to the conclusion that sustainable development must be deeply rooted in a cultural values. Values that cherish our natural and cultural heritages, values that place people and communities at the center of development, and values that emphasize inclusive economic growth. Without these cultural values, there will be no real, lasting progress in implementation. Clearly, we must do more to ensure a more visible and effective integration of culture into social, environmental, and economic development policies and strategies at all levels. Indeed, member states at Rio acknowledged the natural and cultural diversity of the world and reaffirmed that all cultures and civilizations contribute to sustainable development. Now, what's the goal of business? In this broad affirmation of cultural values, where is the business sector? What about the role of that? I'm sure the business leaders gathered here today at this forum will be in a better position to answer that question. But allow me to share one simple idea. If development is to be sustainable, we will make it happen only with the leadership and engagement of business sector. Let me use the example of corporate social responsibility. Although the seeds of corporate social responsibility, CSR for short, started germinating in the 1970s, it was not until 1992, when the first Rio conference was held, that the role of business in sustainable development began to take shape. That happened because the business community realized that corporations cannot pursue profits without due regard for social and environmental impact. After Rio in 1992, business leaders pledged to change course, working in partnership with governments and civil society to translate sustainable development principles into business practice. A cultural change took place. A few messages clearly resonate with the CEOs. One, business can be part of the sustainable development solution. while sustainable development underpins long-term business strategy. 2. Business can comply with the standards of accountability and social and environmental responsibility while profitable. 3. Innovations and technology are crucial to sustainable development. Business has always been and will continue to be the main driver of technological innovations. 4. Business cannot function if ecosystems and the life-supporting services they deliver, such as air, water, biodiversity, and climate, are deregulated. Today, these messages are not only embraced by business leaders, more and more of them are seriously putting them into practice. Indeed, a new business culture, a culture of corporate social responsibility emerged from Rio. It has been driving change since. For many business leaders, the first Rio in 1992 is remembered as for its conceptual innovations, groundbreaking ideas, and inspiring enthusiasm. The Rio Plus 20 conference held in last June is characterized by a sharp focus on renewing commitments and intensifying action. I may be very optimistic, but I strongly feel that after Rio Plus 20, an action-oriented culture is emerging, in which business are taking initiatives and drivers of green economy. You see, I'm wearing green color. That means green economy, with sustainable development. A driver of green economy and sustainable development. Thousands of business leaders gathered in Rio last June, participating in events organized by Global Compact, the International Chamber of Commerce, and World Business Council for Sustainable Development. I was invited to speak at many business-sponsored events, including a final voluntary commitments launch event. Action was the buzzword of the Rio Plus 20. From reviewing successful business practices and lessons learned to launching new initiatives. The urgency for taking action resonated with all participants. If anything, Rio Plus 20 clearly reaffirmed that business has a distinct and a vital role to play in helping solve the world's most complex problems. Today, no one disputes the fact that responsible business practices, whether driven by profit-seeking motives or by the need to comply with the laws, are at the heart of corporate citizenship. And corporate citizenship helps build trust and contributes to sustainable development. Indeed, the CEOs I talked with in Rio fully agreed that for our world to prosper together, we must learn how to work together to achieve balanced growth, build a stronger social compact, and preserve a healthy planet. Rio Plus 20 further acknowledged the importance of corporate sustainability reporting and encouraged companies to integrate sustainability information into their reporting cycles. The business community in China is responding to the call to action from Rio Plus 20, and hundreds of companies are now publishing corporate social responsibility reports. As in other countries, this change is driven by a new action-oriented culture for sustainable development. Both domestic and overseas stakeholders are now expecting high-quality and reliable reports demonstrating companies' commitment to sustainable development. Dear colleagues, in these 3 days of conference, you will have expert presentations and discussions on culture and environment, culture and economic growth, and conflict alleviation, culture and social cohesion, and culture and cities. There will be also discussions on public and private partnership. At this business forum, I would like to share with the forum participants a few points I shared with business leaders at Rio Plus 20. One, I said about time. Decisions you as business leaders make today will affect our planet and society for decades to come. So please think long term. Two, there are very few other stakeholders who are in such a decision-making position. Choices by business leaders can directly lead to better management of the planet's natural and cultural heritages. So I appeal to you to act responsibly. Three, business leaders can adopt and implement cleaner production technologies and a greener value chain. So let us start with your own business first. Four, and you can also play a leading role in sharing experience by reporting on your sustainability performance, showing the way forward. So please lead by example and contribute to a culture for sustainable development through your own actions. Those are four points I shared with these leaders at Rio last week. So dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, I have devoted a large part of my public services to peace and security, as you know. I'm chief negotiator for security and counter-terrorism and cooperation. Through those actions, I was creating many hostilities, enemies, and friends. They are critical. Without peace and security, there will be no economic growth and no sustainable development. I'm fortunate that in the latter part of my public service, I have also had a chance to work on development. Without sustainable development, there will be no lasting peace and security. Sustainable development is the foundation for peace, security, and prosperity. As we engage in our daily business, the business of running a company, selling a product, growing a market, it will be important for us to pause and think and look beyond our individual, immediate horizon and ask, are we as a global community sharing one and the same planet on a sustainable track in an increasingly globalized world? I do not have the answer yet, but I do know that to achieve sustainable development across the world, we need to start with a culture for sustainable development. As the Chinese title states, culture is key to sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, we all hold that key. That is, the key is in our hands. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Shah. And of course, the transformation from a hard-nosed arms negotiator to a Green Secretary General leaves us hope that many business people will transform into strong proponents of culture and corporate social responsibility. Before I invite David Khalili to take the floor, let me just express my great pleasure of seeing three great personalities from China here in the room. Tan Dun, the famous Chinese composer and conductor, and I should say, of course, since recent Goodwill Ambassador of UNESCO, who is also very much committed to water. He got his title of the Goodwill Ambassadorship on 22nd of March, the International World Water Day, and he is the first Chinese Goodwill Ambassador of UNESCO, so I'm very happy that you're here. Thank you. I also want to recognize Gu Benda, Master Gu Benda, another distinguished major artist of China. Sometimes I don't even know whether you're Chinese or New Yorker, you know, so it's moving left and right. So we are very happy that you are here. And I also want to recognize another friend, Professor Chen Yu-Tian, the Dean of the Jingde Zhen Ceramic Institute, which is very important in terms of keeping culture alive and culture not only for the sake of culture, but also, of course, culture for the sake of business. So these are three practitioners who make a living out of culture, and I think this is also a very important dimension. So let me now invite David Khalili, as I said, both a businessman, a collector, and a mécène, to share his views with us. Then we hear Mr. Chan Min, and then I will invite a variety of speakers to speak about 3 minutes with their punchy points which they want to make, and then let's see whether we have time sufficient to open the discussion. So David, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This will allow me to take Mr. Hans Tobel, a good friend of mine. It's simple to say about him that if he ever want anything happen, just leave it up to him and make sure that will happen. Thank you for chairing the session. I would like to start by saying art transcends nationalism and cultural borders. I believe the shortest route to the heart and minds of people from different nations, traditions, and backgrounds is through art and culture. At the end of the day, the language of art is universal. There has never been more need for this universality than in our complex world today. There will be a great void in our lives without art and culture. Respect for culture creates respect within and amongst nations. And I salute your nation for cherishing and promoting your own great culture and tradition, and simultaneously not neglecting the art and culture produced by other nations around the world. It is an enduring way of cementing the understanding of art and culture and diluting ignorance. Your country should be proud and praised for its long-term forward thinking and planning, which has been a hallmark of Chinese innovation throughout the centuries. As a humble collector, being driven by the same dream, I assembled and published in 40 volumes, to date, 8 of the largest and most comprehensive art collections in the world, totaling 25,000 objects, including the largest private collection of Islamic art. Allow me to say that selection from this collection for the last decades has been shown in majority of major institutions and museums around the world, which include British Museum, Victoria Museum, Metropolitan Museum, and Hermitage in St. Petersburg. The rules of my life were simple. I went to sleep dreaming about my passion and woke up in the morning pursuing it. I believe that life without passion is like a fire without a flame. Your forward thinking and planning is clearly evident in your own support of art. You already have 2,000 museums across your country, and you're planning to build another 3,000 by the end of 2015, which I see as an incredible challenge. But knowing you, I have no doubt you will exceed your cultural dream and astonish the world. By comparison, during the last 300 years, European countries combined have built over 19,000 museums, and the US over 17,000, representing local and international art and culture. I won't be surprised to see China exceed these numbers in not too distant future. Allow me to give you an example of what is happening culturally in my home country. The cultural and creative industries contributed 12.4 billion to the UK economy in 2011. The industry supports over 260,000 full-time equivalent jobs, which indirectly means 1 million people when you take into account the families of those employed. Using the above simple model, and applying it to your own museum building project, Colorado, means that by the time you finish in 2015, the contribution to your economy will hopefully be 223 billion per annum, which directly and indirectly benefits approximately 20 million of your own people, and probably more. Knowing your system and the way you go forward, I'm almost sure this number will be higher than my very simple calculation. If this doesn't exemplify your dream and the power of art and culture, what else can? Can you imagine the importance of tourism, economic gain, and the prestige of your nation as a consequence of your ambitious art and cultural project? In short, every year you will have millions coming to your country as visitors and leaving as ambassadors, a principle that applies in most of the major cultural centers of the world. I don't know of any amount of money that can be spent on publicizing any project that would have a fraction of the effect that culture would have. These visitors would come from all over the world with a view that is already formed about their artistic preferences, having 4,000 museums throughout the nation displaying the diversity of objects from your own and other culture will open their mind, widen their knowledge, and satisfy any artistic tastes and preferences they may have. This illustrates the power of art and culture, which I always believe to be irreplaceable and unparalleled. With this in mind, I wish you tremendous success in this important and far-reaching endeavor. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, David. Now I have the pleasure to invite Mr. Chang Lin, Executive President of the Dalian Manda Culture Industry Group, to take the floor.
各位嘉宾，大家下午好。很高兴今天在这儿和大家交流。今天下午我们讨论的题目是关于文化行业、文化企业。我想每个文化行业呢是由各个文化企业组成的。如果把整个行业发展好的话，离不开整个企业的发展。所以今天下午跟大家交流的题目呢，叫打造世界一流的文化企业。就从万达集团所拥有的文化企业谈起。 万达集团从2005年开始投资文化产业，最早的时候我们做万达院线。2012年呢，就是去年把旗下的所有的文化企业整合成立北京万达文化产业集团。万达文化产业集团注册资本50亿元资产呢，去年年底是310亿，年收入是208亿。已经按这个数字呢，我们请这个世界知名的这个咨询机构伯南贝格做了个。 评估全球2012年全球文化产业市场的一个报告，我们是进入到前50名，也是中国最大的文化企业。万达文化集团呢，进入9个行业，包括2条院线，美国安森院线和中国万达院线。这2条院线合计占全球10%的市场份额，就是全球电影市场的10%的市场，是全球最大的电影院线运营商。 包括万达影视公司、万达演艺公司、万达电影科技娱乐公司、主题公园公司、大歌星娱乐公司及财经类的报刊、收藏等等。我下面谈4点啊，就是如何打造世界一流的文化企业。第一呢，创新文化产业模式。万达能快速发展成为全国文化产业的龙头，主要在于创新文化产业。 一是多产业要素的这种整合。万达做文化产业不是文化企业各自独立发展，就电影院做电影院，就舞台演艺做舞台演艺，而是在全国首创将文化与商业旅游的多种产业组合起来一起发展，不同产业相互依托，互为支持，产生综合效应。 比如上海五角场万达影城，虽然只有9个厅，但依靠万达广场综合业态带来的旺盛的人气，2012年收入8000万元，就一个影城只有9个影厅，收入8000万元，净利润1000万元，在全国影城中名列前茅。在万达投资200亿元建设的长白山国际度假区，将亚洲最大的滑雪场、9个度假酒店、商业街、剧院、电影院、博物馆等多种文化方面的产业要素结合。尽管长白山度假区地处在偏僻山区，但其中的文化项目依然取得非常良好的收益。二是打造高科技的文化产品。万达文化产业没有采用传统的像舞台剧、歌舞晚会这样的这种产业模式，特别注重在文化产品中注入世界级的最新科技，打造高科技的文化产品，推动文化产业快速发展。我们目前在武汉正在打造的武汉汉秀大型舞台秀节目，采用飞行变化的 LED 巨幕，包括移动的观众座椅、最大的水下升降设备等世界首创的特种设备，创造出具有中国文化元素的世界顶尖的舞台演艺节目，将在2014年，就是明年年底开业。开业后必将成为具有世界影响力的中国文化产业。三是实现连锁经营。为了做大文化产业，万达借鉴跨国商业企业的连锁经营理念，所有的文化产业都采用连锁经营方式，做到3个统一：统一品牌、统一制度、统一运营。因此，万达文化企业成本相比同行低30%左右。比如万达电影院线单凭收入是行业平均收入的200%，净利润是行业平均水平的300%。第二大方面呢，是整合全球的人力资源。文化产业是创意产业，人才是文化产业的关键因素。万达不仅注重引进国内一流人才，更在全球范围内引进顶尖人才。比如靠这个优厚的待遇吸引人才，像我刚才提到的这个大型舞台秀，就是在武汉汉街的汉秀，明年年底将开业。这是弗兰克·德穆先生，他是包括拉斯维加斯的欧秀、梦秀和澳门的水舞间，都是他作为导演和这个推动人。弗兰克·德穆先生，我们就跟他合作，建立合作公司，共同打造。而且不光在武汉，我们在全国其他地方还在同时在打造多台大型的舞台秀节目，允许他以技术和治理，他不用拿钱，他用他的技术和治理来占比30%。这种优厚的待遇促使德共和其团队放弃在美国的工作，加盟万达。万达为文化旅游规划院首席视觉特效师安东尼曾4次获奥斯卡最佳特效提名奖，1次获奖。他来应聘的时候就提着这个奥斯卡的小金人过来应聘。万达为他开出200多万的年薪，吸引他加入万达。二是靠合作双赢吸引人才。有些世界顶尖文化人才多年形成自己的合作团队，他可能有自己的团队，不能整体加盟万达。比如像这个马克·菲舍尔曾任北京奥运会、广州亚运会、伦敦奥运会开幕式的艺术总监，世界电影娱乐科技领军企业的这个艺术总监。针对这些人才团队呢，万达与他们签订10年以上长期的排他的这种协议，使这种文化人才呢可以使这个企业经济的关系。第三大方面呢是敢于巨额投入。万达是极早进入文化产业的大企业，由于资金实力雄厚，再加上万达对文化产业投入的产出规律的这种理解，万达文化产业集团走出一条大投入大产出的路。比如我们在这个长白山这种位置投资，如果做这种小项目，做1-2个宾馆，或者做一个很小项目，肯定会死。所以我们就做大项目，一投就是几十亿、上百亿的投资。只有这种综合性的项目，才能有影响力，才能有活力，才有可能产生巨大的效益。你比如像我们在武汉投资的电影乐园和汉秀，总共投资60亿元，投资巨大。但是通过目前的我们的分析，包括这种国际化团队的运动，2个项目年收入将超过15亿元，有望在7-8年左右的时间就超 收入这个方式。第4大方面呢，就是打造全球文化的渠道。商业领域里有一句话叫做"渠道为王"，文化产业也是这样。包括中国文化企业很难走向世界的主要原因是缺少渠道。所以我们在渠道方面下大力气，花长时间来打造传播渠道。目前呢，世界文化渠道已基本上成型，肯定成本低。如果依靠自身的这种发展来建立全球的渠道是非常困难，只能走并购道路。万达为了做全球电影渠道，除了每年在中国大力发展屏幕之外，因为我们在中国的发展速度很快，万达电影院线每年在中国可能发展30多个引擎，300多块屏幕。但是即便是以这种速度的快速发展，我们现在是万达电影院线是1000块屏幕，以这个速度每年300块屏幕增长，10年还能增长30块，才4000块。现在世界排名第1的都要达到将近60块。所以如果想成为世界第1，需要并购。所以去年呢，我们通过长达3年左右的这种谈判，并购了全球排名第2的美国AMC院线。去年已经进行交割，以26亿美元收购100%股权。并购以前 AMC 连续3年亏损，并购后我们推出了新的这种制度。因为我虽然兼任他的董事长，但是实际上我们整个管理团队都保留，只不过变了这个薪酬制度和激励制度，并采取了一些新的方式和方法。当年 AMC 公司其盈利5800万美元，当年盈利。今年预计还会有更高的盈利。并购 AMC 之后呢，整个万达院线就成为全球第1院线，拥有全球市场份额的10%。所以我们现在也努力把这条院线继续做大做强，也在全世界各地呢，也在寻找机会。万达文化集团已确立明确的发展目标：2016年资产达到500亿，收入达到400亿，进入世界文化企业前20。2020年资产和收入力争达到800亿，进入世界文化企业前15，成为世界一流的文化企业。就从我们做文化企业这些年来看呢，得出的经验，虽然中国的这个文化事业、文化企业起步较晚，但是因为在整个的中国的经济发展的过程中呢，文化企业相对滞后，而且这些年发展的又很快，所以我们有信心，随着中国经济的发展，随着中国文化企业的发展，把万达的文化企业给做大，做成世界一流企业。谢谢大家。
Thank you very much, Mr. Chang. Very fascinating to listen to the strategic approaches in the Wanda Group. One would have thought, not being a Chinese, that if you add 300 screens every year to China, you're soon number 1. But apparently, under the preferential system of customers, this is not the case. So we learn on these things the hard way. Let me now invite Mr. Simon Campostrini, who is representing the European Union Chamber of Commerce in China, in Shanghai. He's one of the co-organizers with us, co-hosts of this forum, and he will then be followed by Mr. Meng Wan, the president of the Shenzhen Ruby Group, who is the other co-host of this event. So, Simon, please.
Thank you very much. It is a great honor for us to be a co-host of this event. I believe this is a further step of, or a further example of many years of good cooperation between the European business world and the Chinese business world and Chinese authorities. Thank you very much for this opportunity today. I think we all believe that culture shapes what we mean by development and determines how people act in the world. And this gives a special responsibility for companies, especially when they operate abroad in a culture that is different from their own. I personally live in many countries, but I think China is the most enriching from a cultural point of view. And let me explain very quickly the role of the European Chamber in China. We have about 1,700 companies, mostly large European multinationals that operate pretty much everywhere in the world, but we represent them when they operate in China. Our main role in China is to be the voice of European business. And we do this through a number of lobbying activities with Chinese authorities, Chinese partners, and so on. And among all our activities and events we organize, we have something that I believe is quite special, and not many other associations are doing this in China at the moment, and it is the CSR Forum. It is a forum for companies that want to understand how to be a responsible business in China, how to operate in an environmentally friendly way, and how to promote culture in China, as well as doing a good business, of course. And of course, it is not simple. It is not simple simply to take what works in Europe and use it in China. The system is different, the laws are different. What can be a good practice in Europe might not work here for many reasons. But this is not a cause not to try. Of course we have to try, and of course we have to understand how to do it best. And we do this at the European Center by helping member companies to understand how best to do it in this country. And of course there is a long-term profit by corporations when they think about CSR, but we also believe that this benefits society where companies operate. And CSR practices interact with cultural aspects on several levels. Let me give you a few examples. First of all, companies that operate in China have the possibility to help local authorities developing culture by helping construction of schools, for instance, or libraries, or cinemas, or museums in their own areas. And then our companies can also encourage employees to further their studies by sending them abroad to international universities, or more and more to do it in China, where a lot of postgraduate studies are available now for both Chinese and European managers. Another way is to promote cultural interchanges and sponsorship for local cultural events and arts. There is then a further role for European business. We know Europe has been one of the pioneers of the green economy. CO2 emissions for cars have been tried in Europe several years ago, and now China is, of course, following in this for obvious reasons. The need to protect the environment is not specific for one country, as we said before, but it is a world challenge, right? And of course, what worked well back in the old continent, in Europe, can work here as well. So there is a special, let's say, responsibility for European companies that have tried and developed interesting standards to prevent waste in Europe, to do the same here. And this is what our member companies are doing. I want to conclude saying that we believe that among environmental, economic, and social objectives, culture is, of course, one additional pillar of sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Camposini. Let me now turn to Wayne Mann from the Shenzhen Ruby Group. Wayne was the first partner of UNESCO as a private sector business person 2 years ago, and some people said, here's a financing in a sports club supporting and engaging with UNESCO. What are they doing? Well, what they were doing, they were bringing together out of Qingdezhen the masters of ceramics with masters of ceramics out of Africa. So we had an African-Chinese collaboration which was supported by Wayne Mann from the Ruby Group. So Wayne, please share your experience. And let me also say, from now on, please let's try to be very tight in our timing, because we have many people who want to speak and we have limited time. So,
尊敬的联合教文组织汉斯助理总干事，尊敬的前联合国副秘书长邵子康先生，女士们、先生们，大家下午好。非常高兴有机会与欧盟中国商会来协办今天下午的2011年8月13号，联合国教文组织 总干事波克哈女士，在深圳与我们深圳红钻集团签订了战略合作伙伴关系。这是联合国教科文组织第一次与中国民营部门签订战略合作伙伴关系，对此我们倍感荣幸和光荣。尤其合作的内容是推动中国的陶瓷文化与非洲和阿拉伯国家的交流，这是我们有机会站在全球的平台上面从事崇高的人类的文化事业。这次签约也是我们的员工第一次感到我们离人类的事业如此的近，也大大增强了企业的凝聚力和员工的归属感，也是我们的合作伙伴对我们所从事的文化事业，有了更多的认同感。从我们签约以后，我们又捐助了100万美金，成立了联合国教科文组织红钻战略基金。战略基金从去年2012年10月份，我们当时邀请非洲的摩洛哥、突尼斯、加蓬的8位艺术家来到我们的景德镇，来从事我们的艺术交流。在景德镇，我们得到了景德镇陶瓷学院和景德镇学研究院的大力的支持。我们的非洲的艺术家在这里也和我们的中国的艺术家也进行了非常深入的交流。同时，今年2月份，我们又组织4位中国的顶级的陶瓷艺术大师，利用春节的时间，我们去了摩洛哥、突尼斯和加蓬。我这次活动我也亲临现场，应该对当时，比如在摩洛哥，我们的很多非洲的学员，他们说我们感觉到陶瓷在摩洛哥本身已经是一个手工制造的，为了前途在哪里，我们看不清楚。有了中国艺术家的到来，向我们传授技艺和我们交流，让我们感觉到明天我们的陶瓷产业有非常大的空间，也大大改变了我们对这个陶瓷艺术的前途的这种认识。通过这2年的实践，我们看到民营部门参加联合国教科文组织的世界文化事业的发展，这是一个趋势。同时，我们也非常欣喜的看到，在我们之后，像凤凰卫视、华强集团等等也加入到了支持联合国教科文组织的文化事业当中来。在此，我们也非常感谢有这么多的伙伴来共同推进这样的事业。本次联合国教科文组织的大会的主题是文化，文化使我们成为我们，而不是其他人。文化带给我们力量，文化是创新与创意的源泉。对于我们今天所面对的全球挑战，文化在许多领域为我们提供了洞察力答案。对于我们的企业的可持续发展来讲，文化有着非凡的潜力，文化具有强大的推动力。像15年前，我们当时知道电脑、IT， 我们那时候感觉它是多么的遥远，或者是一个多么神秘的高科技。那时候在中国，我们知道有很多企业专门拿出一间房子，铺上地毯，把一个电脑摆在那里，有这么神秘。如今 IT 已经深入到了我们的生活的方方面面，我们工作的方方面面。我相信通过5年到10年的时间以后，我们的文化也会一样会渗透到我们的工作和生活的方方面面。最后，我想讲一个段子。有人问一个教授，什么是第一产业？教授说，养牛养羊。学生问什么是第二产业？教授说是杀牛杀羊。学生问什么是第三产业？教授讲是卖牛卖羊。最后问什么是文化产业？教授说吹牛皮出洋相。但是吹牛皮需要非常高超的技巧，需要创意，需要技术，出洋相像喜羊羊一样给大家带来很多快乐，同时带来很大的收益。所以我们希望更多的企业来参与到文化事业和文化产业当中来。谢谢大家。
Thank you very much, Wayne. The next speaker then is Mr. Xie Yong, the Vice President of the Zhongkun Group, who will share with us the view of the group and culture, why culture is important for them.
尊敬的各位来宾，大家下午好，今天非常荣幸，能在这里和大家分享一下我们中昆对世界文化遗产保护的一些经验。我们中昆呢，实际上是主要是以旅游和商业为主的一个民营企业。通过我们实践，我们发现这个主题确实是我们与我们的实践呢有着很深的一个相契合。文化是可持续发展的关键。 我们也发现文化是旅游的核心。我们是1997年经历了安徽的黄山宏村，2000年的时候把宏村申报为世界文化遗产。以它为契机呢，我们在这10年陆陆续续的有对这个南平、关路，包括成为名就不分的张李渔村，包括全国历史文化名村，北京的。 这个举人村、湖水，包括还有新疆的土陶的发祥地，这个喀什的高台民居等等，我们先后的话保护了23个这个全国的历史文化名村。通过我们的实践，我们找到一条世界文化遗产的保护开发一个模式。好，通过这些年，我们欣喜看到。 通过对文化遗产的保护，给我们企业带来可观的收益，同时，我们的经济效益又保证了我们对这种文化遗产的继续的投入和保护。我就以我们宏村为例作为案例给大家再分享一下。我们1997年进入宏村以后，我们没有先开发，而是先进行保护。我们请了清华大学、同济大学的这个专家。 走了宏村的这个保护与开发规划，经过了国家建设部、当时建设部还有文物管理局评审以后，我们才开始对宏村保护性的开发。同时呢，我们申报世界文化遗产以后，我们成立了世界文化遗产的保护委员会，我们成立了世界文化遗产的保护监察大队，包括民间的这个保护协会。 以它为这个组织为机制，同时呢制定了世界文化遗产的保护的这个实施细则。在这个前提下，我们对宏村进行了古村落民居的这个修缮，同时对街道进行了整治，对河道进行了清理，然后对周边的这个山林进行封山育林，提高整个宏村的这个。 绿化率的覆盖率，在这个前提下，我们把宏村的这个遗产做了很好的保护。在我们对它的建筑进行保护的同时，我们也不像一般的旅游企业把村民迁走，而是让它继续留在宏村里面，让他们继续卖他们的工艺品，像砖雕、木雕、石雕，同时让他们继续销售他们的这样的一些特产，像茶叶。 这个野菜，同时他们在溪水旁边进行洗衣服，晾干他们的这个菜，就是把他们的这种以前的祖祖辈辈的生活方式得以展现，在这里下同时取得收益，通过这些方式我们让宏村在一个历史文化名村，在一个世界文化遗产上得到了传承和保护。 以它为契机呢，我们把它就是对外进行很好的营销宣传，这样的话就取得很好的收益。最开始我们接手宏村的时候，它一年才17万的门票收入，但现在门票我们就达到1亿元，这样的话也给当地造了很好的一个经济效益，同时呢增加了很多就业，也增加了当地的财政收入。 促进当地经济发展，由一个原来的贫穷县，就是我们所在这个区呢叫易县，现在变为全国的百强县。所以我想的话，对世界文化遗产这种对文化的这种保护、传承以及开发通过我们的实践，我们应该走出一条这种可持续的发展道路。 我们希望以它为这个核心，我们进一步的对中国的一些比较好的这种遗产进行更好的保护和开发。特别在我们联合国教科文组织我们希望也和联合国教科文组织进行友好的一个合作，在联合国教科文组织的这样一个指导和帮助下，更好的保护我们中国的文化遗产。好，谢谢。